CBO versus ABO campaigns. That is the big question. If you look around YouTube, you'll see how some people recommend you run CBO campaigns. That's the only way to do it. Some people would say if you want more control, run ABO campaigns. Who should you listen to? I've talked to so many of you guys, so many beginners that are struggling with figuring out what CBO campaign to use, when to use a CBO campaign, and if they should even use an ABO campaign. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly which campaign type should you use in what circumstances, because that is the key factor. Both of these work, and there's a reason why Facebook offers them, but there's different circumstances and situations where you should use one over the other, and you need to know exactly when that is. My name is Joshua. I've been running ads for about 8 years now. I've worked with over 500 clients, scaled e-commerce brands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can see the results on the screen. I've been running CBO and ABO campaigns for years now. I'm going to tell you exactly in this video which one is the best for you if you care about being profitable, and when should you use each. With that being said, every video I offer 10 free consultation calls. If you want to hop on a free call with me, ask me any questions you have and have me help you with your store, book a free call. The link is in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. With that being said, let's jump right into it. So first and foremost, let me just go with the textbook definition of what CBO versus ABO is, so you have a good understanding and a good foundation of what we're working with. So with the CBO campaign, it's very simple, very straightforward. You have one campaign level budget. What that basically means is you'll have a campaign and you'll give the whole campaign a certain budget, and then Meta or Facebook will decide which ad sets to spend which amount on. To give you an example and make things easier for you to understand, let's say you give the campaign a $100 budget, you have 10 different ad sets in the campaign, then Meta will decide which ad set out of those 10 should be spent more on and which should spend less on. And this they tracks based on performance and the objective that you're given it. But generally the rule is campaign has one budget, Meta decides which ad set gets how much money. Right? Very simple. With ABO campaigns, it stands for Ad Set Budget Optimization, and it is literally what it says. Every ad set has its own dedicated budget. So with the CBO campaign, you give the whole campaign $100. With ABO, you will give each ad set $10. So you control the exact spend on each ad set. Now that is the main difference in theory between them. But in practicality, there's more to it, and that's exactly what I'm going to explain next. So first, let's talk about ABO campaigns. To give you a picture of what ABO basically is, ABO is like driving a manual car. You control the gears, you control the clutch, you control everything about the car. Now, this comes in handy when you're in the testing phase, because you can control every little aspect about the campaign and the ad set. Now, the reason for this is while you're testing and you're still trying to find your winning audience, you're trying to find your winning creatives and your winning angles, you don't want Meta or Facebook to decide where to spend your money, because the goal isn't conversions necessarily, but the goal is mainly testing different ad creators and different angles and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So you want every ad to get an equal fair chance at being tested properly. And because you're controlling the ad spend, you can give every ad an equal chance. But if it's a CBO campaign, then you don't have any control over the ad spend. So Facebook will automatically, based on this algorithm, decide where to spend the money. And this means your testing will not be as efficient as it should be, which is why an ABO campaign is best when it comes to testing. To give you an example, let's say you're testing 4 different audiences. The first audience is women between the age of 25 to 34. The second audience is men between the age of 25 to 34. Third audience is a beauty interest. And the fourth audience is a fitness interest. Now, to test these, if you're running a CBO campaign, Facebook might throw 80% of the budget on one ad set that randomly starts performing better one single day. And that means the other 3 won't get a fair chance at being tested properly. But let's say you're running an ABO campaign, you give each ad set, let's say $100 a day, you run them for 3 days, and by the end of 3 days, you can see exact data on which ad set performed the best with the same kind of budget. So there's no other variables in terms of the budget, but just the audience that you're targeting. This helps you figure out exactly which audience works and which doesn't. However, there is a downside to it. The downside is that everything needs to be controlled manually. What that means is you'll have to spend more time monitoring the ad sets consistently. But that is the trade-off that comes with control. So you need to consistently monitor all the ad sets if you're running an ABO campaign. So when should you use an ABO campaign? An ABO campaign should be a go-to for audience testing, creative testing, and early phase optimization. But once you've found your winners, that's when you want to go into CBO campaigns. And now let me explain CBO campaigns. So CBO campaign is basically like autopilot. Think of a Tesla, it drives automatically. You don't really have to do anything. You just need to tell it where you want to go. So when should you use the CBO campaign? Once you've identified your proven audiences and winning creatives, that is when CBO becomes your best friend and it'll help you scale profitably. Now, this is because Meta's algorithm is incredible at allocating budget within known data patterns, right? So it's not good at discovery, but it's good at distribution when you already know what works and what doesn't. So Here's how it works. When you use CBO with tested ad sets, which means you have proven winners, Meta will automatically move more ad spend towards top performers while pulling back on the weaker ones in real time, which means you already have tested proven audiences that you know work. Meta will then push them further, and then out of those, even the ones that don't perform as good as the winners, it will stop spending as much money on them. And that is why CBO is perfect when number one, you're running 3 to 5 proven audiences. Number two, you have consistent creative winners. And number three, you're scaling your ad spend consistently. When you're at this point, scaling becomes easier because you don't have to micromanage everything. You can basically give Meta an ad spend and it'll handle everything from there because you've already input winning audiences and winning creators into the campaign. Now, if all that sounds perfect, why, if you're running CBOs, you can't get sales? The biggest reason why CBOs don't work is because the structure of the campaigns are usually very messy. What I mean by this is if your ad sets are a mix of cold, warm, and retargeting audiences, your CBO campaign will get confused and overspend on the easiest conversions, which is usually your warm traffic. This means your ROAS looks great, but your growth stagnates, which means your scaling is inconsistent and you can't scale consistently. So the rule for picking campaign optimizations is this. You want to use ABO for testing and discovering, and you want to use CBO for scaling. Now, that is a simple explanation of when to use CBO and when to use CBO. However, there is a caveat to this. With 2025, and especially now with all the updates, Facebook or Meta's algorithm has become very smart. And there's certain things that we've noticed with running ads. With Advantage Plus campaigns and new learning models and even better attribution, CBO has become much smarter than ever before. In fact, we've seen CBO outperform ABOs by 20-30% when you use clean data across certain accounts. What this means is for smaller accounts, ABO will dominate and do really well because the algorithm doesn't have enough data. However, if your account has enough data, your CBO will perform much better comparatively. So this is the rule that I want you to follow in terms of when to pick ABO and when to pick CBO. If you're launching and testing, you want to use ABO, and the reason for this is because you need manual control to find winners. When you're early scaling, you want to use CBO with 3 to 5 tested ad winners, which means winning audiences and winning creatives. And this is because it will help you efficiently scale with proven data. And when you're scaling aggressively, you want to use a hybrid system, which is a combination of CBO and ABO. And this is because it will help you maximize the profit and also take control so you can scale consistently. So what is the hybrid method? It's very simple, very straightforward. You run ABO campaigns for constant testing, which means getting new creatives, new audiences, new angles. And at the same time, you have another campaign, which is a CBO campaign that contains only your top 3 best proven audiences and creatives from the CBO campaign. Now, this way, you're feeding Facebook with fresh data from your ABO campaigns, so you're consistently finding winning audiences and creatives, and then you're letting CBO scale the proven audiences and creators. This is the system you want in place. What this hybrid system will give you is consistent learning, so you're consistently collecting new data in terms of what works and what doesn't. It'll give you stable scaling, and it'll also give you clean data that you can use without burning out and hitting creative fatigue because you have a consistent flow of winning creators and winning audiences being tested from the ABO campaign and then pushed out into the scaling CBO campaign. And this is exactly how we have stores scaling to hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. We have stores doing over $70,000, $80,000 a day. And this is the exact hybrid system that we use. So that is how I recommend you approach your campaigns. Real quick, I want to address a couple of common mistakes that people do when running CBO and ABO so you don't make those mistakes and don't lose money. Number one, you don't want to mix cold, warm, and retention audiences in the same campaign. Now, this is because it will confuse Meta's delivery. It won't know which audience to target based on the objective. Therefore, you'll end up spending money with no conversions. The second mistake I see a lot of people make is they use ABO with little to budget. If your ad sets don't get at least 50 conversions per week, you're not testing enough, you're just burning money. The third mistake I see people make is they scale CBOs too fast. If you're increasing a budget 100% overnight, that is killing your momentum and therefore that is killing your sales as well. Scaling should be done consistently and gradually. You want to increase your budget only 20-30% every 1 to 2 days, nothing more than that. And the fourth big mistake I see people make is they're not resetting creative fatigue. Creative fatigue is a real thing. If you don't know what creative fatigue is, it's basically where a creative of yours is fatigued and the audience you're targeting has seen it enough where it stops converting. So you want to have a consistent flow of new creatives being pushed out every week. I recommend anywhere from 6 to 10 creatives pushed out every single week into your ABO campaigns to be tested, and then the winners from that will be pushed into your CBO campaign. These are the 4 things that I see a lot of people consistently get wrong. So you don't want to make this mistake. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is ABO and CBO campaigns, and I recommend you use a combination called the hybrid system. That being said, every video, as I mentioned, I offer free consultation calls. It's just a way of me giving back to you guys to help you in your e-commerce and dropshipping journey. Click the link in the description, book a free call with me. On the call, we'll review your store, marketing, ads, whatever you're struggling with. I'll be more than happy to help you build and scale a consistently profitable store. With that being said, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.